Hello. Hi, hi, hi. Happy Friday. Welcome. Let me fix my screen. There we go. For those that are new, welcome. For those that have checked out or been to one of my free Financial Friday webinars, welcome back. You know the drill. If you can type in the chat box your name, where you're from, and one thing you're grateful for, that would be awesome. That helps me know that you can hear me, and it helps us get all acquainted. All right, cool. Looks like one person can hear me. Hey, BB. BB from the Bay Area. Hey, we're neighbors. You're grateful for your mental health. Yes. Oh my goodness. I wrote that in my gratitude journal this morning. Ah, yes. Mental health, definitely something to be grateful for. Thanks for being here. Who else who we have this morning? If you could type your name, where you're from, and one thing you're grateful for in the chat box. We've got Megan from Oakland. Hey, Megan. I'm grateful that I'm employed. Yes. Such a beautiful, beautiful thing. Awesome. I see more of you joining in. If you can type your name, where you're from, and one thing you're grateful for in the chat box, that would be amazing. Even though we can't see each other, this helps create a sense of community and connection. We've got Ashley. Oh, hey, Ashley, welcome. I remember you from, yeah, her campus. So you live in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Awesome. And I'm thankful for my health and my family. Yes, beautiful. Welcome, Ashley. We've got Chloe. Hey, Chloe. Chloe's from Asheville, North Carolina. Grateful for a beautiful day and sunshine. Oh, I love it. Chloe is the amazing branding strategist and graphic designer for Money and Mimosa. So as I go through this presentation, if you're like, ooh, those are amazing graphics, Chloe is the woman behind it, and I'm happy to connect you with her. She's fabulous. Janelle is here. Hey, Janelle. Janelle from Maryland. I'm grateful for the weekends and my family. Beautiful. Welcome, Janelle. Kyra. Hey, Kyra. Kyra from Brooklyn. Welcome back. I've been loving your messages. Kyra did her money date last Friday, and she was excited about it in a time when the days are running together. Kyra shared that she was super excited about being able to do her money date on Fridays, which just warmed my heart. Thank you for sharing that with me, Kyra. All right, we've got one more minute for those that are joining in. Just type your name, where you're from, and something you're grateful for. We've got Mary from North Carolina. Hey, Mary. Today I'm grateful for time to use all my sample products and have a spa day. Oh, that sounds so good. That's actually how I spent my actual birthday last week. Was I did a foot soak, I did a hair mask, and I watched Second Act with J-Lo. It was a beautiful spa day at home. It was so nice. Hello, Christina from Oakland. Hey, Christina. Grateful for this time to slow down, rest, and recover. Ah, love it. Yes, so true. What a beautiful time. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get started. It is 10 o'clock Pacific time. And I want to make sure I get through all of this so that there's some time for Q&A at the end. For those that are new to Free Financial Friday webinars, I do this every week. And I leave time to answer questions at the end. I will go through all the material, then answer the questions towards the end. However, as you have questions, type it in either the Q&A box or the chat box, just so you don't forget it. And at the end, I'll go through all of those questions, or as many as I can, um, during the hour that we have together. So today we are talking about uncovering your money love language. What we'll be chatting about today is money psychology, really understanding why you spend the money the way that you do, how your subconscious desires really drive your money habits, identifying what your subconscious desires are, first of all, and then how they drive your financial behaviors. And then we'll talk about how to shift money behaviors so that it actually sticks. A little bit about me, if you're unfamiliar with my work, I'm the creator of Money and Mimosas. We have readers in over 50 countries. I was named a personal finance expert by the Wall Street Journal and Fast Company. And I absolutely love money. I love talking about money and sharing tips. And we have a community through my work. I've done a lot of work with group clients, private clients, and it's been amazing seeing their success. So that's my background. With this conversation, we're going to be talking about uncovering your money love language. How does this fit into your money life? For those that have been to previous webinars, you'll recognize this graphic. For those that aren't, this is to help you get oriented with how this discussion fits into your money life. So finances and fitness, they're very similar, especially in reaching financial goals or reaching fitness goals. So if you look at the fitness portion of this slide, you'll see that in order to reach any fitness goal, there are three areas. There's exercise, nutrition, and willpower. So we have to move our bodies, we have to be mindful of what we put in our bodies, and then we also have to have drive. Like, we have to have motivation to get up and do the workout. We also have to have the will to listen. Sometimes our bodies need to rest and recover, similar to what Christina shared, what she's grateful for, this period of resting and recovery. Sometimes we need that when it comes to fitness. The same thing applies to finances. So in finances, we have well-being, mindset, and your aura. Your well-being is similar to exercise, so it's the actions that we take to reach our financial goals. We also have our mindset. So similar to feeding your body with wholesome foods, we have to feed our minds with rich thoughts, and that's the mindset piece. And then our aura, that's the motivation, the willpower to actually do the work, to actually put ourselves out there, to ask for that raise, or to try something new to create wealth for yourself. In today's discussion, we'll be focusing on the aura piece. That's where your love language lies. Desires really drives your behaviors. And so to orient yourself into how uncovering your money love language fits into your money life, it fits into the aura piece of your financial health. And if you missed any of those webinars, don't worry, it's okay. The information just builds upon each other, but you don't have to know about the previous information in order to grasp the concepts from today. But if you do want to review those webinars, or if you missed them, they are in the Moneymakers Circle group. All right, so for today, we are diving into behavioral economics. This is one of my favorite topics, and I'm so grateful that I can share my love for this study of behavioral economics with you. So behavioral economics, the formal definition is it's a method of economic analysis that applies psychological insights into human behavior to explain economic decision making. That's a mouthful. Basically, we are understanding the psychology behind our financial decisions, really digging into the money psychology piece, because we are not robots. That's what a lot of economic theory suggests, that we are rational beings, but we are in fact human. And we make decisions based upon a complex um, psychological process that isn't always captured very well when it comes to data and graphs, which economics tries to do. So that's why behavioral economics is one of my favorite topics because of the psychological piece of it. One of the more well-known behavioral economists is a guy named Richard Thaler. That's him to the left there. And he is, he's kind of known as someone that pushes the envelope in the economic field. He pushes back on a lot of theories. And one of his famous quotes is, "It ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so." I love that quote. And as we go through this discussion today, I want you to keep that in the back of your mind. You know, keep an open mind and open heart, because it's the things that we think we know for sure that actually aren't quite right is what holds us back from our abundance. And he captured that so well in that quote. That quote is from a book called Misbehaving. It's a book that he wrote. It's The Making of Behavioral Economics. If you want to read it, I highly recommend it. It's a great read. In that book, he talks about how we, quote unquote, misbehave as humans when it comes to our financial decisions. And in that book, one of the quotes that really resonated with me was, "The purely economic man is indeed close to being a social moron. Economic theory has been much preoccupied with this rational fool." Maybe it's the nerd in me. I find that hilarious the way that he phrased that. Essentially, personal finance and economics has this idea that you and I are robots and that we are just completely rational and we're just going to follow this linear path in all of our financial decision making. And that's just not the case. We've got needs, we have desires, we have things that happen in our life that shift our perspective or our values. And he really calls that out in that quote, that the pure economic man is really just socially inept. They are not the true human form that you and I both are. So that's what we're going to be diving into today. And first, I want us to look at some common money rules that we've just accepted as so, but in fact, they could actually be holding you and I and the people that we know back from our abundance. And I put rules in quotes because rules are created and they can be uncreated if we find that they don't work for us. So some of these rules include: buying a house is the best investment. Usually that's a statement, a theory that we'll hear as law, that is the best investment for your money. For some people it is. For others, and I share this often, I've shared it before with you all, that my fiance and I have decided that buying our primary residence is likely not the best investment for us, especially if we continue to live in the Bay Area. We want to invest our money in other vehicles. So for us, that's actually not the best investment. For someone else, absolutely. But for it to be considered a rule, a law that applies to everyone, is just not so. Another rule: you have to have a 401k or a retirement account. For some people, absolutely, that makes sense. And you will never hear me say that 401ks or retirement accounts are terrible. But for some people, that's not the best use of their finances, and their approach to investing may not be best utilized with a 401k or a retirement account. You have to invest in the stock market. This one, again, works for some people. For others, like myself, we see the stock market as one vehicle for building wealth. And then there are other vehicles for building wealth. One could be building your own business, it could be buying other businesses, it could be investing in commodities like such as gold or sugar or beans. But the fact that, or the idea that it's a fact that investing in the stock market has to be done is just not true at all. And I can go into more into that, but let's keep going. College is the best investment. College is a fantastic investment, but it's not necessarily the path for everyone. And as someone who graduated in 2008, going into the economic recession of 2008, it certainly didn't feel like a really good investment. And it's not necessarily the path that, for me, it wasn't, and it's not necessarily the path for everyone to take as well. Those are some of the rules that we are given as ways to make our financial decisions, but they completely eliminate our own ability to be discerning around what it actually means for us to be successful financially as individuals. And in order to do that, we have to understand our own values and desires. Otherwise, you will live your life by default, not design. You will follow these financial rules, and if we go back to the rules I just went through, you'll buy a house, you'll invest in a 401k, you'll invest in college, you'll invest in the stock market without necessarily taking into account what your true desires are, meaning that you're just following a cookie cutter path, which again works for some people, but it doesn't work for everyone. And there is room to have more of a personalized approach to your financial life. Just like, going back to how finances and fitness are very similar. Some people may really enjoy running. Others, it may hurt their knees. So to say that running is the best form of exercise, we all know that's not necessarily the case, because for some bodies, some people's bodies, it just doesn't work for them. There are other exercises that you can do to obtain optimal physical health. The same goes with your financial health. There are lots of different ways to achieve financial success. It's about you discovering what really matters to you and what your values are, what your desires are, so you can design your life. If we aren't proactive about this, about being really clear on our values and how we want to use our finances to support our desires, not only will we live life by default, not design, we'll also feel an underlying sense of dread. And how does this show up? It shows up in a lot of different ways. Here are 5 that I found are fairly common. One is just feeling behind in life. I talk to people who, feel that they want to purchase a home, for instance, and if they haven't done that yet, they feel like they're behind, and there's this underlying sense of dread. What they haven't done is looked into whether they actually want a home, or if they are just living their life according to someone else's rule book. Also, feeling bad with money, that they just aren't good with money because conventional wisdom tells them that what they're doing is wrong. Also, binge blackouts. This was a new term that I just learned in January of this year from someone who sat in on this discussion about money love languages. And she shared that she goes through periods of binge blackouts where she will essentially black out as she's shopping, mostly online, and just binge shop. And then she'll come to and realize that she's spent money, so to speak, on some items that maybe she wanted, but she was doing the spending unconsciously. And she's spoken to other people who have also experienced that as well. And so those binge blackouts are a response to this underlying sense of dread, anxiety, stress around not just probably her financial life. There are probably some other factors as well, which we'll get into with the love languages, but that is how it shows up when we live our life by default, not design. Another way it shows up is just being stingy, frigid with money, holding on to it super tightly because we feel that there's just not enough to go around, or we feel like that's according to conventional wisdom, that's the best approach to being financially successful, is to be very stingy. And then overall, there's just a sense of not feeling good enough, that we just aren't measuring up to this idea of whatever financial success is supposed to look like. And that really weighs on us, really weighs on our self esteem, our self worth, and our approach in all aspects of our life, particularly, of course, in our financial life. I liken, excuse me, I liken the financial industry a lot to the beauty industry, in that the financial industry is designed to to shame, to make us feel bad, and to make us create rules based upon this other person's approach to life. Similar to the beauty industry, where for a long time, things have started to change, but for a long time, there was this ideal beauty. There was this particular look. And if you didn't have the look, then you just weren't beautiful. And we've started to see campaigns that have pushed back against that idea. Dove with their Real Beauty campaign, of course, Fenty by Rihanna, um, and which is a lingerie line showcasing all sizes and all shapes and colors of women, to showcase that beauty comes in all forms. The financial industry is very similar to the beauty industry previous to the beauty industry showcasing all shapes, sizes, and colors. The financial industry has this very narrow approach to what financial success looks like. And if you don't fit into that narrow box, then you're shamed. You're made to feel less than, you're made to essentially feel that you either aren't worthy, you aren't good enough, or that what you're doing is so wrong that you have to completely shift your behaviors. And in doing so, completely eliminate all your desires, all your emotions in order to fit into this narrow box. And so once I started realizing the messaging from the financial industry and how it was so very similar to the beauty industry previous to many of these more recent campaigns, I started to ask myself, well, what if someone's spending was actually insight into their true self? I had started working with private clients, and I realized that changing their spending behaviors was usually the first thing that they wanted to do. They thought that they were overspending in certain areas, and they wanted to figure out a budget and immediately figure out, how can I become quote unquote better with money or good with money? And I started wondering, I keep hearing this question over and over again. It can't possibly be that all of us are just bad with money. How how is it that so many people feel that what they're doing with money is wrong? What if what they're doing isn't wrong? In fact, maybe it's actually an insight into who they truly are. So I started with that question and just started exploring it. And that was about 4 years ago when I started asking that question. And since then, it's been 4 years of um, research, gathering anecdotal information, gathering data, working with private and group clients, probably close to 1,000 clients by now within the private and group portion, and then interviewing people one-on-one to understand their spending behaviors and why they were doing that. And it's a work in progress, continued to be a work in progress. I consider myself an economist, and so all of this information that I'm still gathering, and to better understand why is it that we spend money the way that we do. And my theory that I'm sharing with you today, and I've shared in previous discussions, is that your spending habits are a reflection of a love you subconsciously crave. Now, this is a theory, completely transparent, that I'm still gathering information around this. And you being here with me this morning is helping me gather that information as well, because you'll of course give me feedback. But this is the theory that I've landed on and have started to continue to find information to either disprove it or prove it, help nurture this theory to a more full-fledged understanding of why we spend money the way that we do. And as I've been doing more and more of this research, it occurred to me that we our relationship with money is very similar to being in a relationship with a romantic partner. And for those that are familiar with the five love languages, this will probably make you smile. And if you're not familiar with the five love languages was a book written by Gary Chapman about how can we create a love that lasts. What's the secret to a long lasting loving relationship. And he found that each of us has a love language when it comes to our romantic life. So the way that I receive love may be different from how my fiance receives love. I'm someone that loves words of affirmation. I love to hear, you're doing a good job, Denitha. Thank you for, cleaning that up in the house, whatever the case may be. I need words of affirmation. He's more someone that loves time, presence, us being together. And so that's his way of receiving love. And in a romantic relationship, until you know how the other person receives love, it's really hard to give that to them. So, all day long, he could be, spending quality time with me. But if I'm not hearing that he loves spending time with me, I'm not feeling that love. And so Gary Chapman came up with these five love languages so that couples could better communicate their love for each other. And ultimately came to the conclusion that a loving relationship requires understanding the desires of the other person. We have to understand what the other person needs and desires in order to be able to give it to them. Same thing applies to money. We are in a relationship with money, and so a successful relationship with money requires understanding your own desires, because until you understand what you truly desire and match your financial behaviors to that desire, then you'll never feel fulfilled. You'll feel, like I shared earlier, you'll feel behind in life. You'll feel that you're bad with money. You'll feel that you're not good enough. You'll be unnecessarily stingy with money. All of those things are manifestations of just not understanding what we truly desire and consciously matching our financial behaviors with those desires. And that's my hope with today's discussion, is to help you start to uncover and peel back what those desires are. In doing that, I've come up with the 5 money love languages. And again, this is based upon my interviews, working with private and group clients, doing 4 years of research, and it's an ongoing process. As with any theory, you have to continue to do more and more research. And this is what I've discovered as our 5 money love languages. All right, so the first one is acceptance. And our love languages, to give you some more context with the money love languages, they are born out of a core desire and a core wound. If you have done work with a therapist before, you're likely familiar with the idea of child wounds, core wounds. If you're not, definitely something I would recommend doing some Googling around, understanding what core wounds are. So our money love languages is born out of a combination of those two. So with acceptance, the first money love language, your core desire is belonging. Belonging to a group, finding your community, finding your people, so to speak. That's your core desire. The core wound tends to stem from not feeling enough, feeling less than. And so the combination of those two leads to that love language of wanting to be accepted. What are some of those traits? So how does this show up in your money life when you have this as your love language, acceptance? You love to give gifts. Like, you are someone that everyone would want to be your friend, because at any given moment for any given occasion, you want to give the other person a gift, whether it's their birthday or they just got a promotion or whatever the case is. You love to give gifts. That fuels you, and that just warms your heart. on the flip side, on the shadow side, you also love to give your services away for free. So for the business owners that are listening, this is when you have the love language of acceptance, you tend to discount your pricing and tend to give away your services for free. And so once you identify that that's your love language of acceptance, you'll realize that it's not necessarily a bad thing that you love to give gifts and that you love to share your knowledge, share your services for free. However, if you do that too much, you will deplete your financial health and you're prone to burnout in business. Your overarching identity is generosity. Someone whose love language is acceptance, they're very generous. And that's beautiful. I mean, it's a beautiful trait to have. At the same time, you have to be mindful of how that impacts your financial health because you will tend to deplete your financial health. So what you want to practice is setting boundaries. That is the method of working with that love language. It's not about completely stopping giving gifts. It's not about not sharing your knowledge as a business owner, but it's about being aware of, hey, this is what I do because of my love language of acceptance and my desire of belonging. But it's also coming from a wound of not feeling good enough. And when we continue to act out of that wound, if your love language is acceptance, then your boundaries tend to be usually non-existent. So you want to start practicing setting boundaries. For the business owners, that could look like um, only taking calls from clients during certain hours of the day. It could look like not answering emails after a certain time. It could look like making sure you're sending your invoices on a consistent basis, maybe on the 20th of every month, setting up a framework where you have boundaries with your clients. All right, so that's love language one. Love language two is feeling appreciated. Like that's your love language. You want to feel appreciated. This comes from the core desire of wanting to be acknowledged for your gifts and your brilliance. It also stems from the core wound of not feeling seen, feeling unseen. So, what are some of those traits if that's your love language of wanting to be appreciated? You love to buy clothes. Now, for some of you, it may look like buying clothes. If you're thinking, well, appreciated, it feels like that could be my love language, but I'm not someone that buys clothes, insert anything else that makes you feel acknowledged and seen for your brilliance. It may not be clothes, it could be shoes, um, it could be a lot of different things. Don't get too bogged down on the type of item, but just reflect on your spending habits in terms of how it makes you feel at the core. And if your core feels like it's giving you the ability to be seen and acknowledged, then this one may be your love language. When it comes to business, you tend to invest heavily in your branding. And I'll share an example. So I was working with a client who had a fantastic Instagram presence, but her business just wasn't generating the revenue that she could be generating because of her gifts and talents, but also based upon her Instagram following, like there was a disconnect between her income and her incredible online presence. And what we realized was that she was investing a lot in her branding, a lot in her online presence and getting it out there. But what she lacked was actual substance in her business. And that is the challenge for someone who has the love language of feeling acknowledged, is that they'll focus a lot on the externalities because they're seeking outside validation. They tend to be a perfectionist, but the business, the actual ways of earning income, revenue, tends to lack substance. In her case, it wasn't really clear how she worked with clients. She didn't have packages and pricing attached to it. So on the outside, she looked very polished. That's something that she would pride herself in, was being polished. But the inner workings of the business just lacked substance. And so for her and for those that I found that love language tends to be love language is appreciated. It's about exploring your shadow self. Um, so your shadow self are those hidden dark corners of our lives that we tend to push away because we don't think that they're accepted. That honestly, we are nervous about being ridiculed if we're truly putting that part of ourselves out for people to see. Um, in her case, for instance, it was about acknowledging the fact that, hey, um, she didn't always want to be the perfect person in business. She wanted to, her shadow self actually was about taking a few days off during the week, allowing herself to do, in her case, it was taking pole dancing classes, and just allowing herself to relax a little bit more. She was in the state of, again, being perfectionist, always working, always hustling and grinding, and her shadow self was her quote unquote lazy side. Lazy has a negative connotation, and she felt that if she took time to rest and recover, that she was being lazy. But the more she allowed herself to truly um, pause and reflect, she found that her insights for her business started to spark. She started to get more ideas around how to actually add substance to her business, and her business shifted. So if that's your love language, that's how it can sometimes manifest. And the way to work with it is exploring your shadow self and being in touch with that. All right. So the next love language is nurtured. So your core desire is feeling mothered and treasured. You want to be taken care of. You want to be comforted. I don't know if you can see me, but I'm like holding myself, like rocking myself like a baby. Like that's that feeling that you're desiring, being nurtured. And the core wound comes from feeling unloved, and that can come from a lot of different instances, or places within your life. When I talk about these desires and wounds, they aren't necessarily from financial experiences. They're from other areas of our life usually, and they manifest in our financial life. um, so this is the next love language, feeling nurtured. How does it show up? So you love to invest in self-care, like that's your thing. You love to do it. And then you also outsource as often as you can in business, meaning that you'll hire people to help you with different aspects of your business. Now, again, none of this is bad. Investing in self-care is great. Outsourcing is awesome. You're employing someone else, helping them with their business. You're taking items off your plate so you can really show up in your zone of genius. At the same time, when we aren't aware of why we're doing that, we can overdo it. And if your love language is about being nurtured, it can harm your financial well-being if you're doing it to a point where you're not actually where you're actually harming your financial health. You're spending more than you're able to, and it's also over time will inhibit your ability to grow your business, because if you outsource too much, then you lose track of how your business is actually flowing. And certainly, if you outsource too much, you can harm your overall cash flow. So your overarching identity is about finding balance, and you're eager to keep your peace at the expense of your financial well-being and growth of your business. An example I'll share, this can show up in our personal finances as well. So for those that on the call that aren't business owners, um, for our personal finances, I tend to see this often in food spending. So when I look at someone's spending and their food category tends to be it's much higher than others, and it's also at a point where it's harming them. Like they're spending more than they can given the income that they're bringing in. That's usually where I see this manifest when it comes to personal finances that need to feel nurtured. And and conventional wisdom will say just cut back on that food spending, for instance, just cut back. However, if we do that, we're only addressing the surface level. We're not looking at the root cause. And the root cause is this core desire of feeling mothered, feeling treasured, um, and also it's coming from a core wound of feeling unloved. And so to work with this love language of feeling nurtured, explore your mother wounds. I believe we're all, even if I believe we're all ladies on the call. If we're not, that's totally fine too. We all have to a certain level, it's a spectrum, but we all experience some level of wound from our maternal lineage. That could be directly from your mom, it could be something that's passed down through your ancestral lineage. Honest, there is a spectrum to this, but we all have that within us. And until it's addressed, it can manifest in ways where you harm your financial well being by overcompensating in ways to find that sense of love, that feeling of being mothered or treasured. If you aren't doing that consciously, then you can tend to go overboard in that area. And again, I usually see this in food spending. So that if that resonates with you, that's a love language then that you'll probably want to explore further. All right. So the next love language is feeling respected. So your core desire is about feeling honored and admired. And your core wound is feeling humiliated. So in the past, you may have had experiences where you were deeply humiliated, you felt deeply embarrassed. And to compensate for that, you'll spend money in a way where you can regain that respect, for instance. And a lot of that stems from your desire as well to be seen, honored, admired, which, that in and of itself, that desire, really owning that you like to be honored, you like to be admired, that is a big step for a lot of us because owning that requires, saying, yeah, I want to be in the spotlight. I want to be center stage. And usually that is not accepted by society, owning that at least and saying that that's what you truly want and desire. So acknowledging it is a big step. And then the traits that usually show up. So you love to buy comfort and you love luxury, like anything that makes you feel more comfortable, anything that makes you feel more luxurious. That's what you're all about. And you tend to invest in, if you're a business owner, you tend to invest in publicity, social media, like really getting the word out about your business. Again, that comes from the desire of wanting to be honored, admired, and respected. All of those things aren't bad. They aren't good either. It just is what it is. And how it shows up if we're unconscious about it, though, is that if your love language is about feeling respected, you have a tendency to operate out of ego and set unrealistic financial goals. Um, you are unapologetic about what you want, but at the same time, if you aren't truly aware of why you're making some of the decisions that you are making, you can operate out of ego and set, like I said, unrealistic financial goals and work yourself into the ground trying to reach them. So the way to work with this love language of respect is to explore your feelings of shame and shame around past financial decisions that you've made, shame around how you may have been raised, your family's relationship with money. It could look like shame, cultural shame. Explore your feelings of shame. And the more aware you can become of those feelings of shame when they arise and how they drive your financial behaviors, you can be more conscious and more intentional and purposeful with your decisions and still honor your love language of wanting to be respected, that desire of wanting to be honored and admired, but you won't be acting out of trauma, out of that core wound of feeling humiliated and embarrassed and overcompensating for that. Full disclosure, this is my love language through and through. So that's one, if that resonates with you, you've got a sister here with you that can share some more personal examples around that. All right, and then the last love language is safety. So this one is interesting because this love language is lauded as the person that's good with money, quote unquote, and you'll see why. So it's a tricky one because all most societal messages tells you that the way that you approach money is quote unquote good. However, it can be unhealthy if you're not aware of why you're making those decisions. So the core desire is security. You want to feel secure, you want to feel safe, you want to feel grounded. That's your core desire. The core wound, though, is you feel unsafe to be your true self. So your love language is safety. And if you're acting out of your wounds, you're making decisions that aren't in alignment with your true self because you feel unsafe about being your true self. So how does this show up? So you are restrictive with money, you tend to be, you just tend to, watch your pennies. Some may say stingy. You pride yourself on finding a bargain, like getting a deal on, finding something that's 20% off or getting something on sale. That's your pride and joy. Like you love finding a bargain, you love sharing bargains with friends. That's your thing. And in business, you're constantly bartering in business. Like you, you'll work with someone in exchange for your own services. So like as a writer, I could work with a photographer and say, hey, I can, maybe I can write some copy for your website. In exchange, can you take some branding photos from me? Like that's your thing. You love to barter in business. On the surface, none of those things are bad, right? However, when we go overboard, there tends to be an underlying feeling of anxiety, stress, because you feel anxious about money. You feel like you have to always be in control of the situation because otherwise you won't feel safe. That is your love language, is safety, security. And in order to do that, all you know to do is just control every little thing. And we know when we try to control every little thing, that's where the danger is because we start to feel stressed and anxious. So this tends to manifest in having a high savings, but you still feel anxious about money. So even on paper, like you're fine financially, but you feel anxious about money. That's how it tends to manifest. And this is why this love language is tough because you're getting so many societal messages that what you're doing is perfect. Like you are good with money, you have high savings, you're really diligent about your investing, but inside you don't feel good. And so the way to work with this love language, we're not trying to completely shift your behaviors because what you're doing, is fine, but we want to infuse more joy into your life, more spontaneity into your life. So that's how you want to work with this love language, is making, buying something out of the blue that you didn't plan for, or, booking a last minute trip, doing things that infuse that sense of sparkle and joy into your life, to help balance that need to always be in control. And when you do that, what you'll find is that you'll start to reveal your true self. When you start to explore what truly makes you joyful, you'll start to really see who you truly are and feel safe in doing so. So those are the 5 money love languages. And when you explore your own money love language, the first step is, accepting the quote unquote bad money habits. I hope that what I shared with you helps you see that whatever you're doing with your money isn't necessarily something to completely change. Oftentimes that's the conventional teachings in the financial world, is to immediately change your behaviors. I'll share another example. I had a woman email me just like 6 days ago, within the week. And she said that she's someone, she felt she was admitting to me, she said that, like, I'm admitting this, that I spend according to what I see on social media. I'm someone that really gets wrapped up in someone else's life, and I try to keep up with them, and I'm an emotional spender. And how do I change this? And my invitation to her was exactly what I'm about to share with you. It's first accept that that's what you do. That is your approach to money. Some people will label it as bad, and that unfortunately, when we label it as such, it doesn't give us the opportunity to dig deeper to understand why we're making that decision. So first accept it, because then what you can do is really understand why your approach with money is the way that it is. Fall in love with your approach to money. This is a part of you. Fall in love with it. And the phrase fall in love with flaws and all comes to mind right now, but just fall in love with how you approach money, because once you do that, then you can really understand where those decisions are coming from, what's driving them, understand your desires, the roots of those decisions, and then you can start to shift it. Because once you really understand where the root cause is, then you can explore other ways of fulfilling your desires that support your financial health. So for instance, with that example I shared with the love language of wanting to feel nurtured, your desires to be mothered, to be treasured. Oftentimes I see that manifested in food spending. So there's a lot of spending in the food category. Instead of immediately cutting back on your food spending, accept that that's what you do. Fall in love with the fact that you love to mother and nurture yourself through wholesome foods, through cooking for yourself, through however you choose to spend in that food category. Fall in love with that's your approach, and then start to peel back as to why that's the case, why you feel like food is your way of mothering and nurturing yourself, and then explore other ways of fulfilling that desire. Maybe mothering and nurturing yourself means taking a walk. Instead, maybe mothering and nurturing yourself means giving yourself a foot soak or doing a hair mask. Once you start exploring other areas, as you can see with those examples, your spending behaviors will naturally shift away from the overspending in the food category, because you're finding other ways of fulfilling that same desire. Um, and once you do that, that will support your financial health, because your spending in the food category will decrease, but your needs and your desires are still being met because you've intentionally and purposefully found other ways to meet those core desires. All right, so hopefully that was helpful, inspirational, informational as well. And as we know, inspiration and information without action is somewhat meaningless. It's futile. So here are some action steps for you to take. I want you to go ahead and spend $10,000. So for those that have heard this before, you know what I'm talking about. For those that are new to this concept, spending $10,000, I don't mean actually like swipe your credit card or type it into an online, an e-commerce site and spend $10,000. Unless if you've got it like that, great. We need to fuel the economy. Go by all means. That's not what I'm saying, though. I am saying take $10,000, an imaginary $10,000, and you have 24 hours to spend it on anything that you want. Write it down. You cannot spend it on paying off your debt. That's the only rule. Anything else you can spend it on. And then once you write why or what you're spending your $10,000 on, each thing that you decide to purchase, I want you to ask yourself why 5 times. Why did I want to spend $1,000 on this shopping spree? Or why did I want to spend $500 on this spa date? Ask yourself why 5 times, because what you're doing is getting to the core of that decision. And hopefully the last time you ask yourself why, you get to the feeling. What feeling does this expenditure give you? All right, so spend $10,000 and ask yourself why 5 times. And identify the money love language that most resonates with you. So the 5 that I went through. So 1, acceptance, 2, feeling appreciated, 3, nurtured, 4, respected, 5, safety. Which one of those most identifies or most resonates with you? Don't think too hard about it. Just whichever one first comes up and really in your body feels like it resonates, go with that one. Because here's the thing with love languages, like we can all find ourselves, every love language appears in our life at different times, but there's one that's a common thread throughout our life. And so identify the one that most resonates with you, and then email me and let me know. Again, like I said, this is my theory. I'm continuing to do research on this. So as much as I hope this is helpful to you, I would really appreciate the help as well, more insights and feedback. So if you can share, and again, all of this is confidential. I never share names. I do share anecdotal stories just so we can all hopefully see ourselves in an example. So I'll never share your name, of course, but if you can let me know which one most identifies with you and your thought process, your journaling around that, you can email me at hello@moneyandmimosas.com. I'd really love to hear from you. And that is today's conversation on money love languages. So now I'm going to open it up for questions. Let's see. Oh, great. We've got 9 minutes. Let me stop sharing my screen. And so if you've got any questions, please type them in the chat or the Q&A box. Let's see, we've got a couple. Let's see, Martina says, brilliant. Oh, hey, Martina. Thank you so much for joining. Kristen shares, love your content and mentality. Kudos. Oh, is that your Instagram handle? Awesome. P.S. I'm a financial professional from Canada and saw your session advertised on Instagram. Now following you and love the love language concept. Oh my goodness, welcome. I love connecting with other financial professionals. Thanks for that feedback. Cool. I'll look for you once I hop off on Instagram. All right. Heather says, with the exception of bartering, which I don't do, I am safety to a T. Ooh, interesting. Great. So great that you were able to acknowledge that. Martina says, I'm safety too, now at least. Gina, yes, love your content. Oh, great. Thanks, Gina. Tara says, great information. Thank you, Denitha. You're welcome, Tara. I'm going to take action and email you. Awesome. I'd love to hear from you, Tara. Kyra says, acceptance for sure. Cool. Okay, Gina says, I'm also in the financial space. Welcome. And definitely love the money love languages. Cool. Thank you. Margot asks, can you explain the exploring of your shadow self more? Yes, absolutely. So shadow work, my understanding of shadow work is it's the areas of our life that we have not, that we feel would not be accepted by others. And so we keep them in the shadow, in the dark. Those areas of our life, you know, shadow is like our childlike nature that we'll keep hidden. And I'll share a personal example to help color this hopefully for you, Margot. So one of the things that I realized about myself is that I love to be honored. Like I love to be respected. I love to be center of attention. And saying that though, like, I mean, as a woman, like that's something that we're not just, society says you cannot say that. That's selfish, that's conceited. And so I hid that for a long time. I went into the accounting industry, for instance, and got a job working behind the computer and just would wear darker suit types of clothes, like really tried to actually hide myself because I didn't feel like that other side of me would be accepted. And then once I realized, once I started doing my own shadow work, I realized, oh no, that's something that isn't bad. One, wanting to be honored and respected. It's actually a healthy thing. I just have to find ways to do it that isn't that nurtures me. And so, exploring my own shadow, um, meaning understanding what I truly wanted to experience, brought forth some aspects of my personality that I thought would be dismissed or ridiculed. So that's what I mean by shadow self. So for if you want to explore more of your own, someone just mentioned the Desire Map by Danielle Laporte. She is amazing. You can look into Danielle Laporte. I'll type that into the box for you. She does a lot of work of uncovering your desires. Also, Susanna Frioni. Um, Her podcast, Love, Sex, Desire, is also great for just uncovering your own shadow. So hopefully that helps, Margot. Okay, let's see. We've got a couple other questions. Carol asks, what would you consider money love language if you don't like to spend money on yourself? Ooh, that is a good question. So a couple of things. It could be that you fall under safety, so being restrictive with spending. It could, so safety is your love language, and so you desire feeling secure. You feel unsafe to be your true self, and so sometimes that manifests in not spending money on ourselves. At the same time, your love language could actually be nurtured. From what I've seen, it could be one or the other because sometimes our spending is, we aren't actually spending according to our desires because we feel that it's bad to do that. And once we explore how we would spend money, in that exercise that I gave you, spend $10,000. Once we explore how we actually spend, how we would spend money when we do it freely, then it'll be revealed to us what our love language is. So for you, Carol, it could be, what I found, it could be one or the other. It could be that you have a love language of safety. It could very well be, though, that you have the love language of feeling nurtured because you asked specifically about spending money on yourself. And um, and people who are unnecessarily restrictive about spending money on themselves, it's almost like they're acting, um, they really do want to spend money on themselves, but they're acting according to what society tells them is right. So I would spend a healthy amount of time on that one action step of spending $10,000 and truly, like, before you do it, like, get into a state of abundance, feeling good in your body, whatever that looks like for you, and really be free in that exercise, because I feel like that's going to reveal to you what your money love language is. Okay, so let's see some other questions. Okay, Ashley says, oh, Sandra says, I am safety and nurture all the way. Beautiful. Um, Ashley says, this was great. My partner and I both do some financial advisory. I love that we've got other financial folks in here. Cool. I really enjoyed the content, so glad I could join. I identified most nurtured, however, I have some safety in me too. Yes, absolutely. I'm glad you brought up that you see both in you. It's very similar to love languages in our romantic life. Um, so, for instance, words of affirmation could be your primary love language, but then we may also have the love language of spending quality time or gifts. You know, there can be two that are present. So I love that you brought that up. Um, Mary says, I love this so much. I got a copy of the desire map that you recommended and I'm in love. I see a lot of overlap in what you talked about today. Any other book, podcast, etc. recommendations? Oh, I'm so glad you got that, Mary. That is, Daniel Laporte is so great. Other books and podcasts. Ooh, so I'll type it in here. So Return to Love by Marianne Williamson completely changed my life. I mean, she was my gateway to like a formal approach to self-love. So that book I highly recommend. And then podcasts, I've mentioned Love, Sex, Desire by Susanna Frioni. And none others come to mind at the moment in this realm. But yeah, I would read Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. And yeah, she's great. Absolutely great. Justine says, acceptance. I love your acceptance. Okay, cool. I love this money love language concept. Please consider making this available to other financial people as a tool. Definitely see the value. Oh, thank you for that. That's, yeah. Thank you for that. Definitely. Phoebe says, love languages are vital. What is your goal and behind your business? Not sure if that's a question, BB, but let me know. Katie says, I hate doing bookkeeping. What is that? Neglect, right? Where is that in your model? I kind of hate adulting. Oh, I love that, Katie. Thank you for that. Yeah, neglect. That is a word for sure to incorporate. Huh. Yeah, thank you for that. Let me marinate on that. I really appreciate it. As I've said, like this is ongoing research. So that type of insight is really helpful. I'll have to marinate on that. There's definitely room in the model for neglect, for sure. Chloe says, I personally love spending money on experiences or things that have to do with action, doing, like travel, hobbies, etc., but generally don't like spending money on things alone. Do you think this falls into a specific love language? Oh, so you love being with other people. Well, Chloe, can you expand on that for me? Just because I know you love solo trips, which I would say is doing something alone. But if you see something different, let me know. Because I would say, even though it's travel, those solo trips are things that you're doing alone. Um, but overall, based upon what I know of you, I would say that your love for spending on experiences. Hmm. I have a sense that you are more of a nurtured type of love language. Um, You're really introspective though, so if you see something different, let me know. But that's what I sense for you. Um, Sandra says, I'm also a financial professional. I would love to have this as a quiz for my clients. Yes, I am. Thank you, Sandra, for that feedback. I would love to create a quiz. I do need more anecdotal information and more of a, like once I gather more anecdotal information, then I can actually apply a scientific method to gathering like some data, and then I can create a quiz. So please email me with your love language, any insights that came up for you, things that you feel could be added to this, because all of that together we create this. And then someone asked for me to please write a book. Yes, I would love to. I would love to. Thank you so much for the positive insight. And please help me with sharing your personal stories. Again, it'll all be confidential. It helps me better round out this concept. So thank you so much for your time. I think I caught all the questions. Lorena's has, I just want to thank you for your generosity with sharing the information that you shared today and in all the emails you sent out. this is my first time ever tuning in. I'm an African American CPA. Hey, self-employed single mom. Kudos to you. I provide accounting services to small businesses. It's good to see you doing what you do. I'll tune in again sometime. Thank you so much for tuning in, Lorena. And thank you to all the financial professionals that came out. I love this. You're definitely massaging my love language of feeling respected. But really, thank you so much for all of your presence today. And I really appreciate it. So please email me and have a fabulous money date this Friday. Today is Friday. Have a fabulous money date. And be on the lookout for next Friday's topic. All right. Have a good weekend.